Imagine a sponge, eagerly absorbing every drop of water. Initially, it soaks up the liquid with gusto, but there comes a point when the sponge reaches its saturation. Similarly, the atmosphere is now saturated with carbon dioxide. This hypothesis challenges the core of the climate change debate. The study, conducted by a team of researchers from the Institute of Meteorology and Water Management in Poland, meticulously analyzed atmospheric data spanning several decades. Their findings, while controversial, are compelling. The researchers argue that the warming effect of CO2 is not linear as previously thought. Instead, it follows a logarithmic curve, meaning that each additional unit of CO2 has a diminishing impact on temperature. This logarithmic relationship, the researchers contend, implies the existence of a saturation point, a threshold beyond which additional CO2 emissions have a negligible effect on global temperatures. They posit that this saturation point was reached several decades ago, implying that current warming trends are driven by factors other than CO2 emissions. This study is not an isolated incident of scientific dissent. It joins a growing body of research that challenges the prevailing consensus on climate change, urging a more nuanced and critical examination of the science. While these dissenting voices are often drowned out by the chorus of alarm, their findings cannot be simply dismissed or ignored. To grasp the concept of CO2 saturation, imagine a greenhouse bathed in sunlight. The glass walls trap the heat, creating a warm and humid environment ideal for plant growth. This is analogous to the greenhouse effect in the Earth's atmosphere, where certain gases, including CO2, trap heat and regulate our planet's temperature. Now imagine adding more glass panes to the greenhouse. Initially, this would trap more heat, leading to a noticeable increase in temperature. However, as you continue to add more panes, the temperature increase would become progressively smaller. Eventually, the greenhouse would reach a point where adding more glass would have a negligible effect on the internal temperature. This is because the greenhouse's ability to trap heat is finite. Once a certain level of heat is trapped, adding more glass does nothing to increase the temperature further. The researchers behind the new study argue that the Earth's atmosphere behaves similarly with CO2. Once a certain concentration is reached, the atmosphere becomes saturated, and additional CO2 emissions have little impact on global temperatures. Researchers highlight historical climate data. They note periods with higher CO2 levels without runaway warming. During the Eocene epoch, CO2 was much higher. Yet the climate remained hospitable. This suggests Earth's climate is resilient. Feedback mechanisms and natural cycles play a role. CO2 impacts climate change, but caution is urged in attributing all warming to human CO2. Section 5. The Sun, the unsung hero of climate. While CO2 has taken center stage in the climate change debate, the researchers urge us not to overlook the role of the Sun, our planet's ultimate energy source. They argue that solar activity, including fluctuations in solar irradiance and sunspot cycles, has a profound impact on Earth's climate. They point to periods in history, such as the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age, where significant climate fluctuations coincided with changes in solar activity. These periods, they argue, demonstrate the Sun's potent influence on Earth's climate, an influence that often gets overshadowed in the CO2-centric narrative. The researchers are not suggesting that CO2 is irrelevant. Rather, they advocate for a more holistic view of climate change, one that acknowledges the complex interplay of multiple factors, including CO2, solar activity, and natural climate cycles. This nuanced perspective, they argue, is essential for developing effective and realistic climate policies. Section 6, echoing skepticism, previous studies questioning CO2. Several studies have questioned the magnitude of CO2's impact on global warming. For instance, a study in Nature Geoscience suggested lower climate sensitivity to CO2. Another study pointed to the Pacific Decadal Oscillation as a significant driver of warming. These studies highlight the ongoing scientific debate and the importance of critical examination. Section 7. NASA's simplified narrative, a disservice to science. While acknowledging the complexity of climate science, the researchers express concern about the oversimplification of the issue in public discourse and policy debates. They single out NASA, the renowned space agency, for its role in promoting a simplified narrative that emphasizes CO2 as the primary driver of climate change. The researchers argue that while NASA's efforts to communicate climate science to the public are commendable, their simplified explanations, often tailored for a lay audience, can inadvertently mislead the public about the complexities of the issue. They point to NASA's website and educational materials, which often present a linear relationship between CO2 emissions and global warming, without adequately acknowledging the nuances and uncertainties surrounding climate science. This simplified narrative, the researchers argue, can create a false sense of certainty and urgency, leading to misguided policy decisions and potentially counterproductive actions. They advocate for a more nuanced and balanced approach to communicating climate science, one that acknowledges the uncertainties, complexities, and ongoing debates within the scientific community. Section 8. The perils of groupthink, a call for open debate. The researchers caution against the dangers of groupthink in climate science, where dissenting voices are silenced or marginalized for fear of challenging the prevailing consensus. They argue that science thrives on skepticism and debate, and stifling dissenting voices only hinders our understanding of complex phenomena like climate change. They urge the scientific community to embrace open inquiry and critical examination of all hypotheses, regardless of how controversial they may seem. They emphasize the importance of transparency and reproducibility in scientific research, allowing other scientists to scrutinize the data, methodology, and conclusions of published studies. The researchers acknowledge that reaching a consensus on complex issues like climate change is challenging and time-consuming. However, they argue that the pursuit of truth and a deeper understanding of our planet's climate system must be paramount, even if it means challenging long-held beliefs and confronting uncomfortable truths. Section 9. Beyond the CO2 narrative, towards a balanced view of climate change. The new study from Poland, while challenging the prevailing consensus on climate change, should not be interpreted as a denial of climate change or a justification for inaction. Instead, it should be seen as a call for a more nuanced and balanced view of this complex issue. The study highlights the need to move beyond the simplistic CO2-centric narrative that dominates public discourse and policy debates. It urges us to consider the interplay of multiple factors, including CO2, solar activity, natural climate cycles, and other influences in shaping Earth's climate. This more holistic perspective recognizes that climate change is a multifaceted issue with no easy answers or quick fixes. It acknowledges the uncertainties and complexities inherent in climate science and encourages ongoing research and open debate. Ultimately, it is through rigorous scientific inquiry, open dialogue, and a willingness to challenge our assumptions that we can hope to develop effective and sustainable solutions to the challenges posed by climate change.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.